let's understand consciousness a little bit. Okay, I normally draw this up here, but I pre-drew it for tonight. So, pretend I'm drawing right hemisphere, left hemisphere, with another circle here. We're going to talk a little bit tonight too. We'll relate some of that. Yours is right there. To this little picture that you guys have too. It also has 3 crosses, very similar to the 3 spheres, very similar to the Holy Trinity, which is also reminiscent of the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. And that would be the Father, Son, Holy Ghost concept. And so I want to make sure you know that all of these trinities are synonyms to one another, symbiotic. All right, and so there's 3 crosses here. Do you see the third one? Yeah, do you see it? The little salvation, yeah, the salvation cross here. This is what we want to thread. So you can peek at this from once in a while, and I'm going to refer back to it once in a while, but let's first go here. So all of us have left and right hemispheres. All of us have what are considered masculine and feminine sides. Would you agree? That's why there's a lot of androgyny.
Part of the salvation cross?
Yeah, there's a little cross. Do you see it right there?
I don't see it.
Right here.
Oh, okay.
It looks like X marks the spot. Do you see that?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 3 crosses, so I'll explain it in a minute. You see? There's not 4, there's 3.
There's an arc in there.
Well, the Ankh is in there, yes. I always talk about the Ankh. I usually wear my Ankh necklace. Okay. So we have the right hemisphere. We have the left hemisphere. So right hemisphere, do you guys know what kind of functioning our brain does on the right hemisphere? Anybody? Remember it?
Feelings.
Feelings, emotions. I heard feelings. I heard emotions.
Creative. Creative.
Creative, excellent. A lot of people would address this, I don't like this, but a lot of people address this as the feminine side. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Do men have a feminine side?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. All men have feminine sides. Do women have masculine sides?
Mm-hmm.
Especially this one and that one. Just kidding. So, just having fun. So, feelings, emotions, creative, feminine. Christ referred to the bride and the bridegroom. So this would be which with that scenario?
The bride.
The bride. Okay, and he was talking about the great wedding of the 2 of them. And we'll talk about the corpus callosum or the pineal gland where these 2 sides will meet. We'll talk about that in a minute. So feelings, emotions, creative. Just for argument's sake, I'm going to say emotions are the lower register of feelings, which means not the fun ones, the lower cross here, the upside down. So I'm going to put a little negative by it. That doesn't mean we don't go address them. We do, but we're going to put a little negative sign because it's below the water, underwater. We got to learn to walk on water, but we have to get up on the water, right? And then the upper cross, which are more the fruits of the Spirit if you're Christian or Catholic. And we'll call those the positive ones, right? Love, understanding, kindness, all that good stuff. All right. So the right hemisphere has to do with this. It also has to do with sensory. And so a lot of people need to pay attention to stuff that goes on in their body. Your body is constantly talking to you. And unfortunately, we're in a society that tells you to take Advil, to numb this out, drink this, do this drug, right? Oh, be relationship dependent. Put all your attention over here. Well, let's just run out of our body in marathons, right? There's a lot of conscionable ways to move out of our systems too. Things that are totally agreed upon that are okay. And so I want to make sure we understand that until we allow ourselves to fully feel in our body, and that means emotional body and our physical body, this is going to be something that's very important to us. Now let's go over here. What kind of thinking happens over here? Oh, did I just say it? What happens over here? I'm sorry. What happens over here?
Thinking.
Thinking. Can we call this the data side? Which will help you remember it's masculine. Daddy, data. Can you say that? Logic? We stream logic over here. Analytical. Oh, I like that word. So let's make this part real big. You know people like that? Do they usually participate? Did you see what I drew? Okay. People who typically are not in their feeling body oftentimes have a ton of OCDs, whether it's trichotillomania, whether it's over cleaning their house, whether it's things have to be just so. You know people like that? I'm guilty of it once in a while. Okay, and so we could call this the masculine if it was, and this would be the bridegroom side. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. For biblical people, tune out if you don't like this part. But biblical people, this would be the New Testament side. This is the Old Testament side, and so we would call this law, right? And this is when we're bringing the feeling back, right? Superstar, Jesus Christ, superstar, rock star. Okay, so why am I showing you these two things? Because when we're kids, we're usually forced into one side or the other, depending on your maturation process when you were growing up. A lot of us in America are forced to this side. That's why they put bright lights on in here. They're trying to close down they try to make your pupils contract. And when that happens, you're closing down your feeling side so they can force feed you information that your system probably isn't interested in. Kind of interesting, right? And so in our school systems, they try to arrive and make you go into this side first. Why would that be important? Because to be able to reason is very critical. It's very critical. And even though they're suppressing all the feeling stuff like band, what else are they suppressing? PE, recess now, art, music. All of it's been kind of going out the door, and I recognize that that's a big foul. And it is. So I'm not justifying that. But I do want you guys to understand that they're trying to force you into this body first, minus this body. Even when you guys are kids, how many times did something was going on in the house? Mommy and Daddy were up to something. Something bad was happening, and you could feel it. But every time you ask, what's wrong? And you keep hearing what? Oh, it's nothing. Just for the adults. Nothing for you to worry about. What do you learn to stop listening to? You get that patterned in enough, you stop listening to your belly. You stop listening to your gut and all the things that tell you something's up. And then you start going by what you're told. Right? Obey. Duty, honor, loyalty. When you go join the military, boot camp, what are they doing? They're shutting out all aspect of who you are. They're programming. They're absolutely programming you to do what? Obey. And I'm going to tell you right now, people who obey live in the lower cross. Right here. This is people who are sheep end up here. And so, first thing I want to teach you is rebels with a cause, not without a cause. Then you're just a mess. But rebels with a cause, you see what I'm saying? Yes. So rebels with a cause are important. And anybody who's been somebody has been a rebel. Would you agree? They didn't stick with the status quo. They invoked a new change even against the grander scheme of things. Would you agree? All right. And how do the underdogs seem to win? Any of you played any of those video games that are linked to each other, like in Dave & Buster's? None of you guys have played those things? Where the little things race against each other, the little ATVs race, and you race all the people that linked with you? Oh my goodness, what's wrong with this group? Really? When your kids were younger?
We're not that young.
No, you're not playing those games. You get the real thing. You go get motorcycles. You did. Okay, thank you. And did you always know to hang out in the back and wait until the last lap to make your move? Because they would give you more juice. I figured this out real early on. Yes. And so that's kind of, late bloomers are my favorite. Yeah. Because if you hang out in the back, for some reason, underdog stories, do they compel us? Do we watch movies about underdog stories? Yeah. We love underdog stories. And why do they tend to win? Because everybody wants to get behind an underdog. And this is why we can have system changes. This is why we can change systems. And that means you have to be a little bit more out loud about you being an underdog. Oh, that means being vulnerable, guys. That means being vulnerable. All right, so let's play some more. All right, so we have these two sides, left and right. You're probably thinking to yourself, have you ever taken those little tests on the computer that say, are you left hemisphere person or right hemisphere person? Have you seen those little tests? Yeah? And are you a feeler or are you a thinker? It's not really important if you're a feeler or a thinker, because what is important is that you get both of these streaming at the same time. Because what's happening is law of attraction is happening in the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. It's happening in different levels, and you have data that's outflowing from you in different ways, which are distorting your experience, which means it's bringing in different information from all three sectors. It's bringing in different information, and that makes you feel like you have to choose something. Little word to the wise. God gave us free choice, right? That's what you hear people say. Whether you believe in God or not, you've heard that, yes? God gave us free choice. And free choice is allowed to usurp what would be optimum for us, right? Mm-hmm. Did you guys have parents that let you have free choice, or did they always tell you what was best for you?
Free choice.
You got free choice. Well, that's why you're probably doing better than others. Anybody else? I had to obey. I don't know about you guys. My life sucked. I had no choices. That's why I went choice crazy later on, right? So, really big time choice. I want you, I want you, I want you. Yes, definitely had some slut issues. And I want that, and I want that. I definitely ran all over the place in every way you can. Spiritually, male-wise, job-wise, I've been all over the map. I definitely think it was part of my training, though, because I learned a lot of different people's systems, and I learned to be a chameleon with people, which is definitely helpful for me today as long as I know myself in the process. Okay, so our thinker and our feeler oftentimes don't agree. We call that, in the psychology world, they call that cognitive dissonance. When two belief systems aren't in agreement in your own system, it causes what feels like chaos. It can actually analysis paralysis. It can stall you out, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So think about things. Is there things that you feel one way about but think another way about? Happens all the time. If you had parents that didn't agree on things, it probably is what formatted you that way, for sure. So our thinker and our feeler need to start agreeing, but we cannot serve two masters. You've heard that too, right? You can't just serve your feeler, and you can't just serve your thinker. You're going to have a higher power or a stage up of something that knows how to remedy the dissonance between the left and right hemispheres. And that's why we have to start addressing higher power concepts. That's why AA or NA does higher power concepts, because the only way to move through an addiction, to move through a pattern, is for you to know that there's another aspect that you can grab and act through in order for you to reassimilate yourself. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so if you haven't been interested in the concept of God or higher power, it's time you get on that bandwagon. Call it whatever you want. Call it Bob. I don't care what you call it. Just start using it. Okay? So let's talk about, you're using it anyway. You don't realize you're using it because you're constant. How many times do you go, oh, where are my keys? And then pictures fly into your head where those keys might be. Right? Do you guys get that? Mm-hmm. Okay, constantly asking and receiving. Constant. But if you become more aware of it, then you can start to wield it. We good? Are we still good, guys? We're still good? All right. So let's coordinate this, because we're going to talk about this pineal gland. See this little dot in the middle? This pineal gland, and somebody asked me some good questions tonight because they read all those spirit science things. The pineal gland is smack dab in the middle of your brain. We're going to talk a lot about it tonight when I start registering things with the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind, and how to start getting those to stream together. But the pineal gland is the place you want to access. That's that higher power that you want to access. Some people call it the seat of your soul. Some people call it the seat of God. So it even looks like an almond. Christ even kind of talked about it as the mustard seed. He recognized it as calling it Heavenly Father, not because there's some grand guy in the sky saying, punish him, do this to their da-da-da-da. Pineal gland, Heavenly Father, was he's trying to let you know there's a parent program trying to give you more than you could ever imagine for yourself. That's my phone. I'm the naughty one. Excuse me. Let me turn that off. So, you can have my phone. So, I want to teach you a little bit more about the pineal gland and how it operates and what we want to do with it. Okay. So, we have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, and we have an unconscious mind. At this time, you are registering information in each one of these separate from the other. They're not in agreement, and so therefore you are attracting to yourself chaos, what you sense or experience as chaos. There is no such thing as chaos, except for the organized chaos you create by having these separations within that allow you to have a multitude of streams of information coming in. Does that make sense? Right? Don't you hate it? Don't you hate it when a bunch of windows pop up on your computer? Boom, 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 boom. It's what you have coming into your life all the time. No wonder you're freaking going crazy. Right? Not fun. So the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. Let's first learn that all three of these work on different timing belts. The conscious mind is your right now. And you hear people say all the time, you got to get right now. The present moment is the only place. Except for in your present moment, when you keep drawing in sabotage programming because you have some past moments you haven't wrapped up yet because you got some open programs, then your present moment isn't serving you very well if you don't know what to do with it when this stuff comes up again and again and again. You need to be able to look at the past to understand the pattern so you can eliminate it. So you can't get the power of now and be right here, right now until you've dealt with your past and understand what it was prescribing to you, what it was characterizing in you, what it was manufacturing in you as a gift, and getting your voice back in the process. So the conscious mind is the right now. The subconscious mind is the place we hold our homeostasis, our stability program. The subconscious mind is like the autopilot. And things that have been accepted in the is many times now gets put into autopilot, much like that Adam Sandler movie. Did you guys see that movie, Click? Maybe some of you did, if you haven't. So if you haven't, just listen to the context, it'll still make sense. Adam Sandler's given a remote control by, who was that crazy guy? Who's that guy?
Christopher Walken.
That is it, Christopher Walken. Crazy guy, I was going to say cowbell guy. That's all I know him by. So Christopher Walken is in this crazy get-up, and he gives him a remote control. And in the remote control, he says, anytime you're bored or you're just kind of going, you can fast forward. It has a great fast forward. And all of a sudden, it would fast forward through having to give the kids a diaper change. It would fast forward during all these different experiences that were presented. And so every time he would fast forward, he was really enjoying it. And then he could slow down and really enjoy those moments he liked. So he didn't realize, and what's his name again? Christopher Walken failed to tell him was that when you hit the forward enough times during the same scenarios, it is a smart remote and it'll continue to forward through those things. And lo and behold, it only took, a year or two or something like that for him to suddenly be just fast forwarding. How many of you feel like time's going like this? Fast forwarding all the way, and he's like, oh my God, I missed that, I missed this, I would give anything to change a diaper again. Spending that time with our kid. And so subconscious mind works just like this, and I will be flipping off in a minute because it's part of my program. But the subconscious mind is exactly that. It's going to, what you repeat time and time again, it's going to put into autopilot. Good or bad. They have something streaming. So good or bad, the autopilot is the very place, and it is your garden. And this is the place that needs to be seeded and weeded and pruned in order for you to have autopilot of only your consciousness attracting that which is most optimum that serves you and everyone else on a continuum with no negative karma. In fact, no karma at all, right? Because it's serving you and others simultaneously. I'm going to teach you how to program this into your experience. Okay. More water. I'm really sweating. Okay.
Do you want the fan turned down?
No, I'm going to use this lovely little peacock fan she gave me. Yes. Do you guys need the fan turned up? Is it too hot?
Perfect.
Everybody else is okay? It's just me. So the subconscious mind also in autopilot, so it accepts things that you've repeatedly adapted to in the present, but it also has within it, and then we'll talk about the two places that we have our synaptic connections, which are our agreement pile, our yes pile, and we have our amygdala functions, which is our no likey pile, our avoidance, don't want to go there, would like to never look at that again pile. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is what creates you and crafts you, to have these two piles, right? Constant yes and no's. Isn't that what actually ones and zeros? Mm-hmm. All the bits of who you are, right? So your subconscious mind is the place we're gonna focus in a minute. And so when you have a very joyful moment, it doesn't have to be repeated for you to remember that. That'll probably go right back in there. And if you've had a very traumatic moment, it goes in there right away too, but it goes into your no likey amygdala pile, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Then we have your unconscious mind. Now, your unconscious mind, we hope to bring conscious at some point, but your unconscious mind does a lot of variables for us. It has a lot of involuntary processing going on, right? You remember involuntary responses in high school and things like that? So, the unconscious mind has two functions to it as well. We got our lower self, we call our ego self or our soul self, and we have our higher self or our optimum program or our God self or our made in his image self. Does that make sense to you? Your divine self. The lower self is recorded in our blood. It's in our DNA. It lets us know genetic code-wise what has been archetypically, what boxes have we checked and which ones aren't checked, and we need to check them all before we can become enlightened. We have to understand what it means to be in everyone's shoes, either through the art of compassion or through our own experience, or having experience through others. And this is the lifetime, the end time, right now, that is possible to do this work. Because we have so much communication over the entire earth. That's the macrocosm of what can happen on a microcosmic scale, where you can communicate to all the attributes inside of you. So, human-wise, do you guys know how much a human typically computes at any one time, how much of their brain they actually use?
7% or something.
7%. Some people say 5 to 10%. Do you think there's more capacity? There's been movies recently, Lucy out there. What's another one? That's talking about having more brain function. Limitless, yes, all that kind of stuff. So if you had more capacity, do you think we're using all of our apps in our brains? Think about your computer for a minute. Have you opened every app on your laptop? Have you opened every app on your phone? Why not? Why not?
Not interested.
Not interested? Or you don't even know what's in there.
Yeah.
You don't know to be interested. You haven't found a need for it yet. You're doing the same thing, right? What if I told you you have a lot of apps in your system that you haven't tapped yet? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a will, there's a way. You've heard that? So would you like to tap new apps in you that would make you a quantum human being? That would make you be able to do things that other people think are superhuman and are not?
Yes.
They're part of our human capacity that was long ago stolen with all the lies that we're told about what we're capable of or not capable of. And they're true and real. I experience them all the time. All right. So our higher self, so if our DNA is a record of what we've accomplished thus far, is DNA changeable?
Yes.
Thank you. So we can re-encode DNA to be different for the next generation. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. How do we do that?
It starts with us.
Starts with us changing our information systems. Yes. We got to change our minds. If you change your mind, does it change your chemical chain reactions in your system?
Yes.
So it changes how you feel, changes your emotions. And if you change your emotions and how you feel, do you have a different vibe, a different frequency?
Mm-hmm.
And as you raise that frequency, are you going to have different attractions and have different executions of things out here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this is the link to the link to the link to the link that you need to start understanding, the symbiosis, so that you can learn how to read your environment and make proper information shifts to change those other chemical layers so that you can actually feel good. That would be nice, right? Without taking something to do that. Without rubbing something on your skin or going for this treatment or that treatment. All healing, real healing, truly comes from changing your mind. And knowing how to read what is out here. Sure, you can go get that cancer cut out. If I had cancer, I've had cancer. I had it cut out. But I also, at the same time, worked on my psyche to understand why it was there. Even did some energy work at the time trying to understand it. Now I know how to change things through the mind. If something's there, I can shift it through my mind, and it does shift the reality. But that's not how everybody operates yet. Some people are still very, very stuck to allopathic medicine and that kind of thing. So I'm saying, never say no to allopathic medicine. Do it all together, but never do it in lieu of your psyche. Your psychology has to be addressed every time. Why is this in my world? Why is this here? It is not a punishment. It's not for somebody else's learning. I'm so sick of hearing that one. And it's not left to God's mysterious ways. This shit you're supposed to learn and know. And it can be understood. So it's time to wake up. It's time to recognize that everything around you is speaking to you. And that nothing here is random. Nothing here is chaos. Everything can be understood by reverse engineering your experience and asking yourself the right questions so that the right information can come in. Okay? Either through experience or through our own minds or our own psyches or even that movie you watched yesterday. Right? Okay. The pineal gland. Let's talk about that. This guy. The pineal gland is where optimum program coding is possible. We can call it omnipotence, omniscience. We can call it, this is where, when we have an orgasm, this is where serotonin is boosted in the brain as well. Serotonin is the drug, and so that is the drug that makes us feel illuminated and feel so good and euphoric, and that's because all your synapses light up at the same time, and you have access to everything in your mind, so you feel like nothing is unattainable, and you feel limitless for a brief moment. That's why everybody runs after it through their lower body first, right? Orgasm. But I want to help you get into your upper body and understand how to have an ecstatic, psycho-spiritual experience that releases serotonin, and that's when you get those holy goosebumps. Anybody get those yet? And when you're having them, they feel good, don't they? You can tell you're resounding something every day. That's right. And so this is the stuff we're working for now. I'm working for this all the time, and I'm not working for this all the time anymore. That's why I've gotten chubby. Okay? Now I don't have to work for this anymore. Now I'm working for this, and to put my world together. I guess that's why I'm looking like Oprah. She's a no-name, too. Obama. Just playing. So, I was waiting for booze or something. I don't know. I never know when I bring up little political things. All right. So, optimum programming code, God. I also used to call this personal optimum program, so it sounds like Pop, which sounds like God, which sounds like Father, which sounds like Daddy, right? So, this optimum program code is your pineal gland, and you can access the most omniscient and omnipotent answer for right here, right now, within the context of my experience that serves one and all, meaning myself and others in a continuum, which is biblical too, love your neighbor as yourself, a continuum. It's an algorithm so that there's nothing left for it to piece apart. There's nothing left for it to be sabotaged by. So optimum programming, this can be accessed, and always asking for the win-win-win solution. Win-win-win solutions, however, doesn't mean everybody necessarily feels good in the short term. Okay? Sometimes win-win-win solutions include tough love. Sometimes it includes somebody who's used to getting something all the time from somebody and having a temper tantrum, and that's okay, because now they're going to have to go find their own resource within instead of using you for their false God, and find their own God within, or their own resource within, or their own optimum code within, whatever your language is. Okay. So, this optimum programming function is the very place we want to be able to access and hit upon. When we do, even though and because this is always working on a constant, it has never stopped working. This is a constant. So this is, this is was, and this is ever shall be, meaning it's been constantly beaming to you what needs to occur, what needs to happen, this personal path to get you on your optimum path, to get you on your perfect path. It's never ceased beaming, you just stopped listening. You stopped noticing it. Or you're too busy noticing the squeaky wheel, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so, everything okay? Good? I'm still hot, sorry guys. So, optimum program is the thing you want to access. It's always beaming to you. That means God is always knocking. It's up to you to answer the door, right? Isn't that what they say? Mm-hmm. This is always an operation. What you need to do, though, is write some code in your own psyche, write your own word that allows you and actually instructs your system to notice the God stuff before noticing all the other junk information. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so if we program ourselves to notice the optimum stuff instead of noticing this other stuff, that is how we get out of these cycles of free choice. Secret. When you get stuff on the internet that says it's free, is it ever free? Okay, is free choice ever really free, or does it always cost you? Let me tell you what free choice is. Free choice is always lesser than optimum choice. Let me say it one more time. To go around utilizing your free choice, your free choice, your free choice, I personally use my last free choice to go back to my optimum choice, or go back to God's will, if you want to call it that. I now wrap my ego will with God's will, so there's no separation between us anymore, so now I can streamline optimum information at all times. Does that make sense? Anything lesser than that is going to be lesser than that, and it's always going to have a cost. Period. Does that make sense? Call it whatever you want, but just know that you want to link to that which is most optimum, omniscient, and omniscient for every present moment, synchronizing in linear fashion into your experience. Okay. Now we're going to get into the good stuff.